Welcome to Voices of Leadership. I'm Chris Atwell, and in each episode, I sit down with the leaders shaping the future of the manufacturer's rep industry. Real stories, real challenges, real growth. This is where leadership comes to life. Hey, Graham, thank you for joining me. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. I want to take a few minutes to talk about your leadership journey, your growth, and really learn about what's driving you and your business forward, okay? And the goal of this conversation is simple. It's to highlight your leadership, the moments, the lessons, and the mindsets that have shaped who you are today, okay? So let's go. Let's dig into it. When you think about your leadership journey, what defining moment really happened that shaped the kind of leader that you are today?
Well, you're asking me to go back to a big moment. So I would say, for me, it was more of comparing two moments, the contrast of two moments. Early in my career, I spent time at a very large software company, SAP, and really saw how some of the leaders there interacted with their staff, and both from a motivation perspective as well as a training perspective. And it was very professionally done and very well funded and very well organized and structured, and it worked well. But then to contrast that, or only partially contrast that, Chris, it came down to a smaller startup that I was involved in. The moment that was defining for me was that when you just go through a process, you don't have the same connection with the individual teaching it because it's a process. Whereas if you're involved in an organization with somebody that you respect, you're building trust with, it makes it a very different in terms of your commitment to the outcomes. You're not just checking a box. You're actually engaged. You believe in the vision. You want to support that vision, and you feel like you're part of it.
Wow. So understanding the difference between real personal connection and process really was a defining moment for you. Yeah.
They're both necessary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it depends where you are in the journey of your own organization.
Yeah.
But one without the other is only part of the answer.
Yeah.
You need both.
Every leader has those moments where they're faced with big challenges, those challenges that are very difficult. And I'm wondering, what challenge have you overcome, and what did you do to overcome it?
I could use a couple of examples, but the one that surfaces for me comes down to a situation where I observed when someone didn't know that they didn't know something, and I realized that I didn't want to get myself into a situation where just because I don't know something means that I'm not able to face that or overcome that situation. So I'm being a bit vague. Really, where this hit the road for me was a company that raised a whole bunch of money to build some software solutions, and the individual didn't really understand the implications of what that money was being spent on. And so it flowed out like water, and because they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah.
And so they had the wool pulled over their eyes. And so for me, in that scenario, when I got into a unique, obviously, but a similar scenario, I said, there's a bunch I don't know, particularly technical things. I don't come from a technical background, but I overcame it, or at least to the degree that I needed to or was able to, by literally just saying, I am not going to be hoodwinked like this other individual was. And so I'm going to start to learn some things myself, and spent numerous dozens and dozens of hours, sometimes pulling all-nighters to test things myself that I knew I wasn't ultimately going to be the one responsible for it, but I wanted to be able to articulate that to the people who are responsible, what I learned from that process and what questions to ask and what to avoid. And that put me in a position where I was able to earn the respect of people who I ultimately wasn't purely qualified to lead, but I became qualified to lead because I knew now what they needed in terms of a leader to be able to understand their challenges.
Yeah, what a great example where you recognize that in order for you to continue leading, you need to keep learning.
Yeah.
And it's really shaped who you are as a leader today. Yeah. And you still apply that approach. Fantastic. And you've clearly learned a lot along the way as you're sharing. What habits and mindsets do you feel make the biggest difference in your day-to-day?
Look, for me, because I say a strategy guy, you could call it a creative guy. My routines are very much around making sure that I allow for time for my creative brain, my strategy brain, to get exhausted. And so my routine, it doesn't happen every day, but at least 2 to 3 times a week, 2 at a minimum, I will spend a minimum of an hour and a half writing out ideas that I've got, and then doing research, asking myself questions, doing research on those questions, and just exhausting those ideas, or at least getting a list of to-do items that if I can't accomplish them in that hour and a half, that I need to do later. Because then my strategy brain, you can't operate with a strategy brain all day long. You have to then move into tactical brain, right? So I have to exhaust that, just like in sports or in exercise. To grow, you got to exhaust those muscles, right? So and then you can go and do your other things. So that allows me to, for the rest of the day, to be very tactical and be very responsive to inbound requests. But otherwise, I will feel or at the end of a week, if I don't do that, I will feel behind the 8 ball. And as you probably know, because you coach people, when you feel backed up, that you got a whole bunch of things on your mind, it impacts all the other things that you're about to do.
Yeah, I relate that to what I call clearing the vessel. And it's like, there's this concept of fitness where if you exhaust the body, you tame the mind. Right. And for you, it's exhaust that strategic muscle so that you can tame the mind and take care of the rest of the things that you have to do. Beautiful. I love it.
And I'll just say it's played out. It's playing out right now. Obviously, this is just a sample podcast, so this isn't going to go anywhere, but
it may. There's a lot of good stuff here, man.
Right now, it's playing out in the sense that I'm building a new application that is potentially going to be the rails upon which all of these people here ride.
And that came from your strategy workouts.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. If you were to speak with a new leader in your space, what advice would you give him?
Oh, man. I'd want to get to know what their strengths are first, right? But regardless or irregardless of their individual strengths, are they a project person? Are they a creative person? Are they a tactical person, et cetera? I would say, number one, be curious.
Yeah.
Just because it's not maybe your strength or that you feel out of your depth in a certain category of conversation, just get curious about that. It works for your own individual personal life too. If you don't get curious about the parts of you that are afraid or misbehaving, then you can't correct them. They guide you as opposed to you having control over them. So if you get curious, then you can ask questions about whatever is in front of you.
And that lends to your part of how your journey your growth journey happened with continuously learning, and curiosity goes hand in hand with
Yeah.
learning. Fantastic. Be curious. As you look ahead at both you and your leadership, one, what excites you the most about where you're going? And two, what kind of leader do you aspire to become?
It would actually be summed up with the idea of being involved in the details. But what I mean is, if you're going to lead something, think of this example right now. Many experienced, incredibly gifted business leaders are out of their depth when it comes to AI right now.
Yeah.
So how do they lead a team? How do they even know what to ask a team or how to set goals for a team that relates to AI if they aren't A, curious, and B, involved in the details? You can't. You can lead to outcomes, but then that goes back to my earlier conversation about that's just a process now. You don't have the same level of respect with that team. You don't have the same level of insight into what are the different ways to skin that cat, so to speak, right? Because there are numerous ways to roll out AI. Anyhow, the goal, the aspirational leadership style is very much involved in the details so that I can be part of the execution, not just demanding the results or holding people accountable to the results. I want to be part of the result as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, Graham, thank you so much. You coming here and sharing your experience is really going to allow other leaders to learn, grow, and lead with purpose. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Chris, for having me.
All right.